To drain the oil tank, we first must navigate to the maintenance diagnostics for the conditioning to make sure we have no system pressure. We exit out of the operator's menu and navigate to the maintenance diagnostics for the conditioning system. We open the vent valve and we open the oil pressure valve to alleviate any system pressure that may still be present. Once the pressure reads 0, it is okay for us to disconnect the tubing and connect the drain tubing. Take our towel, place it underneath the oil pressure valve. We will take our drain hose and we will disconnect one end. We will disconnect the tube going into the oil pressure valve, connect the drain tube, and route it to our waste container. All right, now we will remove the cap from the oil tank, place it aside. Then we will, in diagnostics, turn on the oil pump, and we'll start draining the oil until air comes out of the drain tube, and then the system is empty. Now that the conditioner tank is empty, we can turn off power to the machine. We'll remove the waste tank to give us more space. We will disconnect the conditioner pump. We will disconnect the oil pressure valve, and we'll disconnect the battery. And that frees up more space for us to work. Then we'll take our towel and place it back underneath the oil pressure valve assembly. We will disconnect the 1/4 inch tubing going into the oil pressure valve. We will disconnect the return line from the pressure valve to the oil tank, and we will connect them together to avoid any drips. So we'll disconnect the tubing on the outlet side of the spin-on filter and connect it to the supply line. With an 1/8 inch Allen wrench, I am going to loosen the top mounting screw for the oil assembly bracket. With a 3/8 inch wrench, I am going to remove the 3 mounting bolts for the pump and filter assembly. When you remove the last screw, you'll want to hold on the pump and filter assembly so it does not fall out. Now we will push back on the oil pan and raise the assembly out of the machine. The spin-on filter is rated for 29,200 lanes, and we should always be proactive to replace it whenever we see the warning message. But it is also good to replace the spin-on filter every time you change oils. To replace the spin-on filter, you remove the old filter from the assembly. Be careful not to spill. In the spare parts kit, you receive 1 replacement spin-on filter. Carefully turn on the new filter and make sure it is securely tightened so that there is no leaking from the filter itself. It's fairly simple to replace the conditioner pump. The conditioner pump has 4 mounting screws and a few items that you have to disconnect. First, we'll disconnect the pre-pump filter assembly and set that aside. Next, we'll disconnect the tubing going to the spin-on filter. We will pivot our holders for our filter, and now we have access to all 4 screws. Using a 3/8 inch nut driver, I will remove the retaining nuts from the filter assembly. To make it easier to reach the last nut, it's okay to remove the spin-on oil filter. Now that we have all 4 nuts off, we can pick the pump straight off the screws. We can take our replacement pump and seat them over the screws. Once the pump is on the bracket, we can replace the nuts. we want to tighten the nut until it exposes 4 threads and compresses the rubber grommet. Now that we have the nuts tightened, we will reconnect the hose to the spin-on filter and the pre-pump filter. And now we'll put the spin-on filter on. There's our assembly, and we're ready to go back to the lane machine and install this. Before we put the oil pump and filter assembly back into the machine, we're going to take our towel and we're going to wipe the inside of the drip pan. We'll take our pump and filter assembly and install it in reverse order as we took it out. Get it in place, then we take our 3 mounting screws and put them back in. We'll take the 3/8 inch ratchet and tighten all the screws. Lastly, we'll take our small screw and place it in the mounting bracket and the oil pan. We'll tighten the screw down with our 1/8 inch Allen wrench. Now we'll go ahead and start connecting the electrical connections. We'll begin with the oil pressure valve, and then we'll plug in our oil pump. So now we'll connect our tubing. We'll begin with the supply line. Connect that back to the pre-pump filter. And our 1/4 inch tubing will go into the outlet side of the spin-on filter. We will move to the return line and connect the return line into the oil pressure valve. And then we'll take the 1/4 inch tubing and connect it to the inlet side of the oil pressure valve. Last but not least, we'll plug in the battery. Now we're ready to turn on the machine and prime the conditioning system. Now we're ready to fill the conditioner tank. Place the towel around, and we will fill the oil tank until we reach the bottom of the neck. So now press the left arrow to highlight the temperature cycle override button, press OK, and that will turn the pump on and start circulating the oil and priming the system. Let the system complete the cycle. After it's completed the cycle, you can begin running lanes.